fear and how it works against you. Today we're going to talk about how to make fear work for you. Okay, how do you make fear work for you? Well, some people have used fear in their professions, okay, to drive them to betterment, okay? But the problem is that they're working from fear. Okay, now when you're working from fear, okay, keep in mind that the foundation of everything is fear, okay? So everything is fearful. Now, you don't want to be fearful because fearful will take your manifestation and kind of hold it at bay. It acts like a force field. It kind of keeps your goodness from you, okay? Because you're pushing, 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 forward momentum like that, okay? So your blessings are trying to come to you, okay? But because you're pushing, because you're exerting that energy that's coming from fear, okay, it can't get to you. You have to dissolve that and allow it to come to you. So now the question becomes, okay, well, how do we transmute fear? Okay, so transmute means to take from one form and to change it into another. Okay, how do you transmute fear to make it work for you? Okay, so you have to look at fear like a scared child. Okay, so this acts as you have to act as if you are comforting this fear in a scared child. Okay, so this activates your higher self and soothes the inner critic. Okay, because it's actually your thoughts that are creating fear. Okay, so we create thoughts in our, that bring fear. Now, how do you stop fearful thoughts? Well, use the word stop and the word no, and then focus or refocus or reframe your thoughts. Okay, so now let's take a look at some other examples. I made some notes, so I'm going to start reading these notes. Okay, and we talked about the role of fear in blocking manifestation. Okay, and because fear prevents you from manifesting things, fear also prevents you from moving forward. Okay, and you talk about indecision, it's fear. All the negative emotions are rooted in fear. So if you draw a line here and you have over here you have positive emotions, over here you have negative emotions. Okay, over here at the very highest is love, over here at the very lowest is fear. Okay, so how does fear not allow you to move forward? Well, it's vibrational misalignment. Okay, so if you're in a positive emotion, it's impossible to be in a fearful negative emotion, right? So you can't have two existing at the same time. So fear cannot exist where confidence is. You can reframe that. You can say confidence. Okay. Now, when you're confident, it's impossible to be in indecision. It's impossible to be in discomfort. It's impossible to be in dis-ease. Okay, because when you're in these negative emotions, all of this is coming from lack. Okay, so fear is in lack. Okay, when you're in competition, you're in lack. When you're in competition, you're suggesting there's not enough, so you're in competition. You're trying to get yours. You're trying to get more. You know, so we've been taught the opposite of what things really are. We've been taught to compete. Oh, you have to be competitive pricing, competition, right? That kind of thing. And the truth is that there's enough for everyone. There's enough for everybody. There's enough money for everybody. There's enough resources for everybody. Okay. But in that action of competition, what happens? People start to corral things. People start to, right? Just, in other words, possess things or to, so how much money is enough money? Well, there's never enough money, right? I can keep going, and there's never enough money. Okay, so you're a billionaire, you want to be a trillionaire. You're a trillionaire, you want to, it keeps going. Okay, so when you're focused on lack, when you're being driven from lack, what happens? Well, there's a gap. Okay, there's this gap, and the gap is the lack. Okay, and that gap will collapse at some point. What am I talking about? Well, let's say you're in competition and you go, and you're getting money and you're getting money, you're making money, right? But you're operating from fear instead of abundance. Okay, you're operating from competition instead of creation. So what happens to this? What happens to this side over here? Well, money's coming in over here, right? and then something happens here that collapses that gap and goes boom, and that money disappears. That could be an accident. That could be, right? That could be a big bill, an unexpected emergency, and all that money has to go. Okay, you see these guys, they're competing, they're in competition, they're competing, right? And all of their life, they're just money, money, money. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's more and more and more and more and more and more and more. What happens in the gap? Well, that gap can appear later on in life when they have to give it all to a HMO or to a hospital or to a doctor or to medical treatments. Why? Because they've operated in lack so long that right, that gap has now closed. Okay? And every action has an opposite reaction. And it doesn't matter if that action has gone on for years or a short span of time. There will be that reaction. And what's that reaction? Well, now that you've been stressing for 30 years and you've been accumulating all this money for 30 years, and now what happens when you slow down? What happens when you stop? Well, my body is in dis-ease. Oh, now I have this problem. And then what happens? You have to take all of that money, okay, maybe not all of it, but a lot of it, and put it into the cure for what you caused in the act of competition, that gap that you've created that now has collapsed. There you go. Okay. So how do we transmute fear? Well, first you acknowledge and observe, okay? Acknowledge and observe. Recognize the fear without judgment. Good morning, Jay. Hey, Johnny. Jonathan. Hi, Jonathan. Leo. Good morning, Leo. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Leo. Okay, so acknowledge making me fearful. What is it that keeps poking at me like that? Okay, so acknowledge and observe the fear. Reframe your thinking. Okay, reframe your thinking. Once you identify what the fear is, you have to reframe it. Okay, so let's say, in my case, I was afraid of heights. And I was afraid of heights because when I was young, I was about 6 or 7 years old. Both of my uncles hung me over a hotel balcony. Okay, and I still, in my mind, I can still see the cars in the parking lot, and they were about that big. They look like little Hot Wheels cars, right? And so, and they were just playing around. They were playing around with me, okay? But I didn't know that at that age, so I developed this fear of heights. Now let's fast forward to when I was 40 years old. I had this girlfriend, and I told her, I said, I'm terrified of heights. I have a hard time going in glass elevators, stuff like that. And so she said, no, you need to face your fear. And I'm like, you mean I have to go in glass elevators? And she goes, yeah, you have to face your fear. So she took me in this elevator at this hotel that I'm not going to mention. And we went up the elevator, and she hugged me and she said, see, look, nothing's going to happen. And we went up the elevator, and then we went down the elevator. We did that about 3 times. And after that, I've never been afraid of heights like that. I can get in glass elevators, no problem. Okay, it used to freak me out, and I couldn't do it. Okay, but first acknowledge what it is. Okay, because some people don't know what they're afraid of. Some people have so many thoughts going on. They're not sure what it is at the root of the fear. Okay, because sometimes you know you're fearful. You know you're running from something. You just don't know what you're running from. Okay, so thank you, Leo. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Hey, good morning, Animal Face. Facts over feelings. Good morning. Your mom. Good morning. J-A-J. Jaji. Good morning. Or Haji. Haji. Good morning. So a lot of times we don't know what that fear is. Okay, so identify the fear first. Okay, now once you've identified the fear, what do? Well, you reframe it. Okay, so now if you're reframing fear or something fearful, and you're reframing it, okay, instead of being afraid of something, maybe you're just cautious of something, maybe you're just aware. So maybe you bring it to your attention, and maybe start reframing it. Instead of I'm afraid of, maybe it's I don't like. Okay, instead of I'm afraid of heights, I don't like heights. I try to avoid heights. Things like that. So that's reframing. Now, when you're focused on lack, okay, and fear, it causes you to focus on lack. Okay, fear does. Because now you're not focused on what could be, okay, or you're not focused on the abundance that is, or you're not focused on what exists that is plentiful. You're focused on this little thing that's making you afraid, okay, and it's generally a little thing. It may seem like a big thing to you, but when you average it out into your day, when you average it out into your life, it's just that small little part that you're afraid of, that small little part that you're fearing, okay. So this causes things, this causes other thoughts, and you're like, okay, what could go wrong, right? So in my case, I was afraid of heights. What could go wrong? Well, I don't know, maybe the elevator would stall, or maybe I'd fall out of a building at the top floor, or or whatever. Maybe the elevator would fall out of the building. All of these things, but this involves imagination, okay? And when you start imagining what could go wrong, okay, now you're suffering from the what ifs. And all the what ifs are rooted in fear. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if, what if? But all of that is rooted in fear. Every what if, okay? Now, if it's a positive what if, right? What if something great happens? What if I get money today? What if I get a job today? What if I get a new girlfriend today? What if I meet somebody awesome today? What if so those are the positive what ifs. But all the negative what ifs are rooted in fear. People tend to what if on the negative more than they what if on the positive. Okay, so you have to raise your expectations into the what if something really, really good happens. And instead of what if, reframe it. Reframe it into something good is just about to happen. Something awesome is going to happen today. I just know, like I know, something awesome today is going to happen. And then wait for it. Okay, you know how they say wait for it? Okay, wait for it. Wait for it and expect it. Okay, conflicting signals. You might consciously desire success, okay, or something good, or something abundant, okay. But because of this fear, right, and it could be fear of failure, it could be fear of whatever it is, right. But because of fear, it's constantly going to bring you back to that thought. It's constantly going to be in the back of your mind. And if it's constantly in the back of your mind, you need to change it. So how do we reframe this? Well, we replace the fear-based thoughts with affirmations of possibility, okay? Or expectation or trust. So start writing, okay? I am so happy and grateful now that I am expecting a new job by May 31st. Thank you. Whatever it is you're seeking. Now, the subconscious learns in repetition. There is only the conscious, subconscious, and superconscious. Okay, this is how I've done everything since 2007. And it's worked rather well. Now, do I get every single thing that I write about? No. No. And sometimes it takes a while. Now, if something is bigger than you anticipate, let's say something is larger than you can wrap your mind around, okay? Because you can't write affirmations to win the lottery if you haven't had a lot of money in your bank account, or a lot of money in your hand, or a lot of money in your wallet, or a lot of money, okay? So it has to be in proportion to what is realistic to you. Okay, so sometimes when you're writing your affirmation, okay, you need to start small and you need to grow that. Okay, a lot of people are impatient. They want things overnight. They want things now. Okay, so you have to start small and build. You have to grow affirmations just like you grow anything in life. Okay, you have to start small and then grow it. Okay, but you can do this over a short period of time. Okay, it took me about maybe 6 months, I think, something like 5 or 6 months to go from $20. So I am so happy and grateful now that I have an extra $20. Thank you. To I am so happy and grateful now that I have $5,000 in additional income. Thank you. It took me about 6 months to do it. And then every time I wrote it, it would take maybe 1 to 2 weeks to happen. Okay, but it started happening. Why? Because that was my new belief. That was my new reality. What is your reality? If you're telling yourself like, "Oh, I want a new car." Okay, but your reality is I have a junk used car. If that's your reality. Now that has been your belief. Now you need to change that belief. So how do you do that? Well, you write against it. Okay, I am so happy and grateful now that I only drive brand new cars. There you go. Since 2007, since I've been doing this until now, the only thing I really know is I always have new car smell. That's all I know. That's my reality. That's my belief. Because every time I get in my lease, right? I lease cars. I used to buy them. Now I lease them. But ever since I did that, right? I noticed that every time I sit in my car, until I take the car back to get a new lease, so it's 3 years, right? For 3 years, there's still new car smell. And what I do is I have this practice that I do, or you can call it a ritual, or you can call it's not a ritual like a witchcraft thing, but it's just a habit, right? That I sit in my car every once in a while, maybe once or twice a week. I sit in my car and I go, yeah, new car smell. It's still there. And if it's still there, it's part of my reality. So you can make things part of your reality. But if you're writing an affirmation for something here, but you're stuck in something here, this is never going to happen. If you're writing an affirmation for a new car, but you get in your old car and you're absorbing that, okay? If you're looking at that and go, yeah, I'm stuck with this stuff, okay, you're never gonna get the new car. You're never gonna get the new car. What you need to do is you need to place your focus here. Your focus needs to be here on new car, okay? Not disappointed about the old car. Okay, because that is your focus if you're placing your attention there. Okay, ignore the old car. Okay, see it as temporary. See it as just for now. But focus on the new one. So what does that mean? Well, get pictures of the car you want. Go down and test drive the car you want. You can still drive the old car. That's what I did. I still drove the old car, right? Until that one day where I had the guts to pull into the new car lot and everything changed from 2007 till now. And if you go to my Facebook, okay, I have a Facebook page. If you go to my Facebook, there's folders with all the new cars in it. And it's not to flex, it's to show people, hey, you can do this too. I've been teaching this for years. I've been teaching this for years and years and years. Okay, but it works for everything, not just cars. It works for love. Write it down. I am so happy and grateful now that I have found my true love. Thank you. And you'll find somebody that you feel loving with. That being said, love is not like the Valentine's Day love. Okay, that's commercialism. That's to go get you to buy flowers and candy and dinners and all that. Okay, that doesn't exist. Okay, you don't fall into love. You meet someone that you feel loving towards. Okay, you meet someone that brings out that empathy in you. You meet someone that brings out those feelings in you. Okay, there's no such thing as a love feeling. Okay, there's no such thing as falling in love. There are just people that you meet that you go, wow, I want to be nice to, I want to bring out the best side of me for this person. Okay, that's the reality of it. Everything else is commercial. We've been taught a lot of commercial things. Okay, but it's for commerce. Okay, weddings, colonization has, done the monogamy thing for a reason, for society. Okay, it's for a purpose. Okay, it's for a purpose. Is it natural for human beings? No. But does it serve a purpose? Yes, it does. Okay, so anyway, back to transmuting fear. Okay, now visualize your desire, your actual desire, not the fear part. Okay, because if you know what you don't want, you know what you do want. So look at what you fear. This is what you don't want. Okay, now look at the opposite of that and look at what you do want. Okay, so the opposite of fear is what? Love, confidence. Okay, confidence is of love. Confidence is that settled feeling. Confidence is that relaxed feeling. Okay, another synonym for confidence is relaxation. So, hey Marcus, good morning. Good morning, brother. My brother in San Antonio. All right. Hey, thanks, man. Appreciate you, Marcus. And so confidence is of love. It's not of fear. Confidence cannot live where fear is and vice versa. Okay. So the other thing you can do, so you visualize what the opposite of that fear is. Identify the fear first. Then you know what the opposite is. Now focus on that. Okay? And you have to act in faith. Okay? Take small inspired actions as if, okay, you have to act as if it has already happened. As if you are already in that state. You know, I've been told by a couple of people, a couple of my clients in the beginning they go, this is delusional. This doesn't exist. I'm pretending to be that. And guess what happens? After about a month, 2 months, right? Maybe 2 months, because it takes 63 days to change a habit. 63 days. After about 2 months, they go, you know what? Funny thing though, like I started pretending to be like this, and then now I kind of am like this, and my habits and everything correspond to this now. And I'm like, yeah. And that's how you change. Okay, but humans are creatures of habit. We don't like change. We get comfortable. Even with negativity, we get comfortable. Okay, because it becomes a habit through the subconscious mind. We get comfortable. So you know those people that lash out at everybody, they're comfortable with that. It has become a habit. Okay, so when they're venting, when they're frustrated, when they're angry, anger becomes a habit. Arguing becomes a habit. And they enjoy it. Why? Because it feels good, because you're venting, you're getting energy out. Okay? You're getting energy out. You're doing that expulsion of energy. Are you getting benefits from it? Temporarily, yes. Are you getting more drama? Yeah, you're getting more drama. Okay, why? Because like attracts like. And then you're also attracting other people who enjoy venting. Okay, I used to work with people that used to like gossip about everybody, like everybody, like all the entire shift that we used to work. But I started using it to my advantage, because I would tell them things that I wanted other people to know, and it worked for my advantage in that way. Okay, did I participate? Yeah, I did, and I found myself, I had to catch myself too sometimes, right? Because why? Because you're conducive to your environment. Okay, you adapt to your environment, and you become like the people that you hang around with. You become like the people that you work with. You become like the people you spend time with. Why? Because humans are chameleons. We're adaptable. Okay, you start saying things that other people say. You start doing things that other people do. And that's why they say, if you show me the 5 people that you hang around with the most, I'll tell you who you are. Because you begin to emulate your environment. So if you take I used to know this girl, right? And this is the girl that I tell the story about her van and how she got a new van in 2 months just by doing affirmations, writing and speaking it. Okay. And she had so much going for her. She was so smart, but she was around the wrong people. She was in the wrong environment. And I told her, I said, you need to change your environment. You're a smart girl. You can get ahead in life. But she was stuck because of her environment. So when you're stuck in your environment, okay, that could mean that you're stuck in the same job. That could mean that you don't have the vision to look above where you are or beyond where you are. And the reason why you don't have that vision is because you have mentally corresponded to the people around you. You have become like them. When you have your own potential, you have your own life path, and your life path cannot unfold like this if you're preoccupied with an environment that keeps you in negativity, or an environment that keeps you argumentative, or an environment that keeps you angry, or an environment that keeps you in drama. I know people that I don't really know them anymore, but I knew people that were in drama all the time, and they loved it. And they used to come up with more drama to feed into the other drama. And pretty soon, and I used to wonder to myself, like, well, how can their lives be so full of problems? But problems become a habit. Problems become a habit. Arguing becomes a habit. Fighting becomes a habit. Complaining becomes a habit, all through your subconscious. There is only the conscious, subconscious, and superconscious. Now, the subconscious works with the superconscious. How does that feed into problems? How does that feed into negativity? Well, it will look for more. It will search. It will bring more negative people into your life. It will bring more negative circumstances into your life. And you won't see it that way. You will just see it as a normal way of living, because you can't see it when you're in it. You can only see it when your awareness grows and you can pull yourself out of it and look back into it. So my clients that are like this, okay, so I have clients that are, I call them high performance clients, okay, but they're clients that have huge job responsibilities. One of the amazing things that starts to happen with them as they increase their self-awareness is that they look back in on their jobs and they go, oh my God, they couldn't see it before, but now they see it, right? And when you can see it, it's like the veil is lifted. It's like your eyes open. So our letterhead for our company, Here For You Life Coaching, opening eyes, hearts, and minds since 2010. Because we open the eyes first. And then you actually see what's around you. You actually see, oh my God, and a lot of them never saw it before because they're embroiled in it. They're working in it. They're in it. You can't see it when you're in it. You can only see it when you remove yourself from it. And with an increased sense of self-awareness, you can remove yourself from it while you're in it. But you can't do it if you're sleeping. You can only do it if you awaken. And awakening means to raise your self-awareness. And the funny part about it is, my executives can't even communicate this to their people. In other words, they can't go up to one of their coworkers or one of their subordinates and explain the process because they sound crazy. So there's that. Okay, but this raises your vibration. Okay, so gratitude, right? Gratitude practice is very important. So find a gratitude practice. Okay, so, this morning when I was in the shower, I said, thank you, Father God, for the water. Thank you for the hot water. You know how many people on the planet don't have hot water? Tons. Millions, maybe billions. There's 7 billion people on the planet. 7.2 billion people on the earth. Okay, the majority of them don't have hot water. The majority of them don't have a shower. If you have a shower, it's a blessing. If you have hot water, it's a blessing. So all of these things that you take for granted, you should be giving gratitude for. Because when you start giving gratitude for the things that you've previously taken for granted, you start experiencing more. Okay, so that's a thing. Now, if you want to, if you want some examples, so let's say that you acknowledge and label your fear. Okay, so maybe an example would be like, I'm feeling afraid that I might fall. Okay, so now that you name the fear, it disarms it. It loosens the power that brought it into your conscious awareness. Okay, so write it down. Write what you're afraid of, and then write, I release this fear and choose to trust. Because fear is a thought, okay? And a belief is a thought you keep thinking. And if you put the wrong beliefs, right? Oh, you get it? You're very welcome. You're very welcome. You're very welcome, Jaji or Haji. Yeah. So, but if you start to name the fear and then release it, let go. Now you can't let go of your past. People think, oh, I'm just gonna let go of my past. No, it's in your subconscious. Okay, and all it takes is a right situation to trigger the memory. Okay. So what is trauma? Trauma is something that sticks out emotionally. It's a memory that sticks out emotionally because it was so severe or because it was severe to you. It may not be severe to other people. I remember walking into a radio station studio once and listening to this guy talk about, his experience with abuse when he was a child. And I sat in that room and I just listened. I didn't say anything. I just listened. And when I walked out of that room, I went, wow, nothing happened to me. And I was grateful. I was grateful that I heard his experience. I was also sad for him because he had gone through that experience, But what I'm really saying here is that we all have different degrees of experiences, right? Good and bad. And no matter how bad we think we have it, there's always somebody who has a worse situation. I had a best friend that was blind, and he went through a lot of abuse, okay, when he was a child. And he was blind. And I have ADHD. And so I had to ask myself, like, would I rather have ADHD or would I rather be blind? And I asked him at one point, would you rather have ADHD and or would you rather be blind? He said, I'd rather be blind. And when I thought about it, I'm like, yeah, I'm happy with who I am and with how I am, even though it's a major challenge. Okay, if I don't get enough sleep, like my brain just skips tracks faster. Okay, it's not a very pleasant feeling. It's not a very pleasant feeling to not be able to sleep because you get that one thought and now your mind is just going into overdrive, thinking and planning and thinking and planning. It's yeah, it's the same as if someone has negative feelings in their brain. And at one time I had that. And it was like one negative thought after the other, one thing. So I was living in hell in my 20s because in my 20s I didn't know these things. So one negative thought after the other. So someone can live in hell their whole life, their whole existence, because they have no control over this one. They have no understanding of this one. But when you have the understanding, when you have control, when you can take one of these and design your life and start saying, okay, no, I'm going to do this. This is what I want. This is what I want to happen. This is what I want to experience tomorrow. This is what I want to experience next week. This is what I want in 6 months. This is what I want in 1 year. This is my 10-year plan. This is exactly what I want and where I want to be. And guess what? Like magic, it starts to unfold. Because now when I look online and I put my name in a browser, I see everything I was fantasizing about at 12 years old. And it works the same way for you. It works the same way for everyone, regardless of your circumstances in the present moment. Okay, so some people in the present moment have a lot of money, but they're not happy. Some people have no money and they're very happy. I remember when I had absolutely nothing. All I had was a fiance, a bus pass, and a small paying job. And I was happy because there was no responsibility. Okay, so happiness does not depend on money. Money is an energy. Money is all around us. Okay, but money is not your God. Okay, money is not a God. Money is not going to solve these problems. Okay, Money makes things comfortable, right? And there was this there's this thing about, like this guy said, well, I'd rather cry in my Ferrari, right? And it was interesting because one day I said that, and I said, I'd rather cry in my Mercedes. Okay, but because I do this subconscious training all the time, right? I do this subconscious training. My subconscious is very, very susceptible to affirmations, meditation, vocalization, and visualization. Okay, your subconscious is like a muscle. You have to exercise it. Okay, and that's why I show people this. So I'll show it to you. So this is the tablet I'm working on. This is the one that I finished, and I'll show it to you. Okay, this looks crazy. These are affirmations. This is not journaling. These are affirmations. Okay, affirmations. So what happens is your subconscious gets fine-tuned like you fine-tune a car. Okay, you can tune your subconscious like you fine-tune an instrument, or like you fine-tune a machine. And then your subconscious starts working. It's like when you go to the gym for your muscles, it's the same thing. You have that capacity as a human being. So what happened when I said I'd rather cry in my Mercedes? Well, one day I was sitting in my Mercedes in the shopping center, right? And I was waiting for someone. And I took out my phone like this, right? And I went to my Bible because I look at my Bible app. I read my Bible a lot. And so I went in my Bible and, I was reading, and it was as if I was getting scolded for stuff, right? And because I had said that in my subconscious, tears started rolling down my face, and guess what? I was sitting there crying in my Mercedes. It didn't matter if it was a Mercedes, a Toyota, a Ferrari. That didn't matter what it was, right? But that's what I had said. So I spoke it into existence. Now, when you start to see synchronicities are things that you say, or that you see, that play out in front of you. Okay, synchronicities. In other words, you're in your house, maybe in your dining room, maybe you have the TV on, and you're discussing something with your significant other. Maybe you're discussing a steak dinner, and then a commercial comes on the TV about a restaurant, and you see steak, or you see dinner, or you see that kind of, So those are synchronicities. Now, when you fine tune your subconscious, because the subconscious works with the superconscious, okay, this is just a visual. Everything is in here, okay? The kingdom is within. Your subconscious, superconscious, conscious is all within you. Okay, it's not up there. I'm just doing this as a visual. But the subconscious works with the superconscious. The superconscious is what brings the synchronicities. So you might be talking about getting a job at the electronics store, and you might see a commercial on TV about an electronics store. You might go down to the mall and meet someone and talk to him, and guess what? He works at the electronics store. Coincidence? No, synchronicities. Okay. When you start to raise your awareness, when you achieve a heightened state of awareness, or let's say it another way, when you become sharper at noticing things because you have become more aware, okay, you see the synchronicities, and you see how things line up, and then they're no longer coincidences. The only time you think things are coincidences, right? I know people that believe in God. They say they believe in God, and they still say things are coincidences. Oh, the funniest thing happened to me. I was down at the store and I saw this thing, and it was a coincidence, but it was like right there. And I'm like, well, you believe in God, right? Okay, so you cannot believe in God and then believe in random acts of randomness. Okay, random acts of randomness. Yes, I said that. Okay, so your wife stays awake. Chuck, hey Chuck. Your wife stays awake all night. Yeah. You see, and the reason why your wife stays awake all night is because she gets that one thought. that leads to another thought, another thought, another thought, and I can help you with that. Thank you, Jay. Jay is our moderator. Afrocentric, hey, good day. I remember you. Yeah, that's a hard name to forget. Afrocentric. Yeah, so when you're staying awake all night, okay, it's because your brain is busy. Okay, I have a very busy brain, so I need to give it a job. I have ADHD, I need to give it a job. Okay, but I have the ability to hyperfocus. I just had this discussion with a nurse yesterday. One of my clients is a nurse. Well, I have 3 clients that are nurses. My clients are high professional people. I call them high performance professional people because they're busy. They have jobs that are very, very demanding. And so one of my clients yesterday, we had this discussion, and I told her, I said, I have to give my brain a job because otherwise it attacks me. Okay. But because I have ADHD, it attacks me with hyperactivity. Or let's say it another way, it attacks me strong. Okay. If you don't give your job a brain, if you don't tell your brain what to do, okay, you don't tell your mind what to do, it will attack you eventually because it starts coming up with things, right? You get these thoughts. Pretty soon you can't escape the thoughts. And then what? And then the thoughts are just kind of going like this, and one thing leads to another, and your imagination builds. Now you had this small little negative thought to begin with. Now you have this huge scenario going on in your head, right? So worry is like praying for something bad to happen all day long, all the time. Okay, if you're worrying, and just know that you can get in the habit of worrying because it's a subconscious activity. The subconscious learns in repetition. Once you've worried twice, 3 times, your subconscious goes, oh, worry? That's what we're doing? Okay. And you start to worry. How do you stop it? Here, right here. Affirmations, meditation, vocalization, and visualization. Okay, I'll briefly go over all 4. So affirmations, I am so happy and grateful now that I'm confident. Because confident, you cannot worry if you're confident. You cannot, there's people who tell me they're confident, right? And then when I start asking questions, they answer the questions in such a way that tells me that they're not truly confident. They think they're confident, okay? They think they know what confidence is. So confidence is a relaxed inner peace. It's not the guy at the gym throwing weights around. Okay, that's overcompensation. It's a relaxed inner peace. When the inside is relaxed, that's confidence. How do you get to confident? You clear out all the rubbish. How do you clear out all the rubbish? Affirmation, meditation, vocalization, and visualization. Okay, meditation, number 2. Okay, sit still for 5 minutes. Thank you very much. Thank you. So I have a Facebook camera up there. I have an Instagram camera over there. I have my other camera here for Twitch and YouTube and TikTok and Trovo in Europe. So aloha from Hawaii, you guys. All right. So how do we do the meditation thing? You don't have to have a mantra. You do not have to have a mantra. You need to sit still. You need stillness. You need 5 to 10 minutes of stillness a day. Conscious stillness, not sleeping. Okay, not sleeping, conscious stillness, because you need to receive. Okay, so prayer is talking to God. Prayer is asking. Prayer, intention, wishing. It's all speaking to God. You need to listen to God. Because why? Because God's going to give you the answers. God will give, or however you believe, God, universe, source, Jesus Christ. It goes on. Okay, but it was Jesus that told us that the kingdom is within. Krishna told us that too. Gautama Buddha told us that too. Okay, Lao Tzu told us that too. The Tao Te Ching tells us that too. Okay, everything is in here. There is no out there, like up there, like heaven up there. No, heaven is here. Hell is here. You're either living in hell here, or you're living in heaven here. Okay, but the kingdom is in here. Everything out there is just nature, and things from other people's in here, inventions, cars, buildings, planes, everything. Okay. So the meditation part, you need stillness because you need to receive the messages. And if your brain, okay, your mind actually, if your mind is processing all this negativity, or it could be positive things, right? But you're busy. You're busy thinking. How are you going to hear your intuition? How are you going to be in tune? Okay? Or let's say it another way. How are you going to be aware enough to receive your intuitive thought? So you need stillness, because when you get the stillness, when you are being still for 5 minutes like this, you will feel the messages. You will feel what you should do, right? Okay, so it's the other scenario that I always give, right? You're driving down the street, you get the feeling you need to turn right, but you dismiss it because you have free will, and you're gonna go to the next light. And then you get stuck in the traffic jam and you go, I knew I should have turned over there. Because you did know. So many times you get this. Women, more than men, women get intuitive thought more often. This is why they call it women's intuition, because they raise babies. They become mama bears, some of them, most of them. They become mama bears. And they have to be responsible for children. So God said, okay, well, we'll give them this skill. We'll give them this skill set. And they'll be emotional beings, but they'll be highly tuned in the intuitive realm, or in the intuitive way. So women get women's intuition all the time. They know like they know like they know, right? You ever talk to a woman, go, oh, I feel this way about that, and then you see it turn out because she was accurate. Okay, but what happens? What happens to women? Well, they get dismissed by logical men that go, oh, you're crazy, right? The majority of my clients are women, always have been, always will be, and they bring their daughters to be confident as well. Okay, but here's the thing you gotta know: you gotta trust your crazy ideas, women. Okay, girls, trust your crazy ideas. You have to. Okay, men, trust your crazy ideas. So many men I know get brilliant ideas, and then they go, nah, but that probably won't work. And what's the result of that? The result, or the cause of it, is your left logical brain rationalizing you out of your dreams. It takes a lot of guts to live your dreams. It takes a lot of fortitude to live your dreams. It takes a lot of pain sometimes to live your dreams, to stay on that course and not let naysayers tell you, oh, you can't do that. That's crazy. Because because if you do that, right, you're giving in to somebody else. You have your own life path. You have your own purpose. You have your own reason for being here. God put you here for a reason. And then you let someone else go, no, 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 go over here, go over there. You let somebody else do that to you? No. Stay here. Stay with your dreams. Stay with your instincts. Stay with that intuitive thought. Stay with that purpose. Everybody's here for a different thing, but we're all here to experience the physical. Okay, we're all spiritual beings. We're all spirits in here. You want to call this a spirit? You want to call this energy? We're all energy. Everything is energy. Everything in our cells is energy, all of it. But we have this body. Okay, these fingers of mine plays guitar. These fingers of mine pick up things and feed me, right? I'm the energy that lives in here. So are you. Okay? So don't let somebody else dictate your path and go, no, 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 you should go over here. Oh, no, you can't play music. You can't do comedy. Go over here and do this because this makes money over there. And some people do that. They allow themselves to be pushed like this and to be directed like this when it's not their will, it's somebody else's will. And then what? They're miserable. Why? Because they spend their whole career doing something over here when they should have been here. When their gut instinct, their intuition told them to do this, but now they're doing this and they're unhappy. And every day is a struggle. Why? Because over here there's money, over here there's whatever. Okay. But they're doing this that they really don't want to do. You know how many people hate their jobs? They hate their job. So why are they doing it? Makes money, feeds the kids. They have responsibilities. Can't keep this up. They have to keep going that way. So what do I do with my high performance professionals? I work with them so that they bring back their own self identity, because they become identified with their business or their trade or their position or their title. Okay, they're no longer James. It's James the internist, or it's James the attorney, or it's James the CEO, or it's James the pharmacist. It's no longer James. What about James? What about James? Okay. So now when we're talking about fear, sometimes James is being driven by fear to maintain the pharmacist position. Everything is in support of that, not James. It's in support of the position. It's in support of the whatever he does for a living. Okay. It could be in support of the attorney, whatever, fill in the blank. But that fear is driving James. But what about James? So never let money be your God. Money's not your God. Money shouldn't determine what you do. You can do anything, especially with technology. We are in an age where technology allows you to do whatever you love and make money at it. If you don't believe me, go to I'llDrawYouACat.com and look at that guy. He draws stick figure cats. People pay him $10 each, and he sells to tons of people. He makes over $200,000 a year drawing stick figure cats for $10 a piece. He's doing what he loves. Okay? So my point is, don't allow fear to drive your career. Don't allow fear to drive your relationship. If you're operating out of fear because, oh, I might lose her or I might lose him, I'll share something with you, right? Years and years ago, I had this girlfriend. I go, wow, I'm never going to find a girlfriend like this. Never going to find a girlfriend like that, right? Guess what? The next one was even better. And the next one after that was even better than her. And it kept getting better and it kept getting better. Why? Because I wasn't focused on fear. I was focused on abundance. I wasn't focused on, oh, I might lose her, so I got to do this, that, and I got to make her happy. No. Bullcrap. Okay? You focus on abundance and be grateful for what you have, and then you get more. So fear, right? Fear is something that you have to transmute. You have to turn that into a positive. You have to turn it around, because there's a good and a bad to everything. Good side, bad side, good side, bad side. Okay? Sometimes a certain food is really good. You eat too much, it's really bad. Why? Because you gain weight, because you come down with type 2 diabetes, whatever. Okay, there's too much of a good thing. Yeah, moderation is key, okay. But I'm just saying, don't allow fear to drive you. If you're at a job and you have to keep doing the job because you don't want to get fired, because you don't want to lose your house, or you don't want to lose whatever, that's not a good reason to keep your job. Eventually, you will lose that job. Why would you lose that job? Because you're operating from fear and not from love. Remember, at this end of the spectrum, there's love. At this end of the spectrum, there's fear. Okay, this is the halfway point. Everything over here is positive emotion. Everything over here is negative emotion. Procrastination, hesitation. Okay, all of this belongs to fear. Fear is at the very bottom. On this side, okay, joy, happiness. Okay, all of this is all a part of love on this side. Okay, when you're in something, it doesn't matter what you're into. Okay, you're into love, you're into relationships, you're into your work, you're into your hobbies, you're into whatever it is you're in, your friends. Okay, if it's of love, if it's from love, it will last, it will continue, it will grow, it will flourish. If it's from fear, you know, some people operate that way in friendships, right? You know, they're driven by fear. Oh, I don't want to lose that. This guy is a friend because he's doing good things for me. I can get ahead because he'll get me in, he'll whatever, that kind of thing, political stuff, right? That kind of stuff. But if it's being driven from fear, you're going to lose it, guarantee. Okay? So just remember that fear is all the way down here at the very bottom, at the lowest vibration. The highest vibration is love. Okay? The opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is fear. Okay? So as human beings, there's the windshield wiper syndrome that I always talk about, right? So we go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Okay, hopefully, right? We're more love, 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 fear, love, 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 fear, love, 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 fear. Hopefully, it's more like that rather than love, fear, love, fear, love, fear. Okay, and when you do that, you bring problems upon yourself. Why? Because your subconscious learns in repetition. Your subconscious learns to fear. Your subconscious learns to love. Okay, so anything can become a habit. You can form good habits very easily. You can get out of poverty very easily. I was sleeping on a sidewalk in 1980 for months. But it becomes a habit. Some people never break the habit. I know, I have an ex-girlfriend. I still love her. I still see her every once in a while, right? I run into her every few years. And she's still smoking. I'm like, wow, I used to smoke too, but I quit. I had to give it up, right? I had to make a choice. Okay, sing or smoke, whatever. Live long, live healthy, or smoke and whatever. But some people can't get over the subconscious programming. You have to change it. Here, this is your solution right here. Okay, the pen is mightier than the sword. Start today. I am so happy and grateful now that I'm breathing clean air. There you go. Okay, you cannot write, I am so happy and grateful now that I'm not smoking, because God does not recognize negatives. Okay, so negatives won't work in affirmations. So affirmations, meditation, vocalization, and visualization. Okay, so that was the meditation part, being still. Okay, getting your divine messages. Okay, whether you believe in God, universe, Jesus Christ, Allah, however you believe. Okay. Now, what about vocalization and visualization? You need to speak your affirmations out loud. Why? Because the subconscious is imprinted with your voice, and it's more familiar with your voice than any other voice. Everything else is just noise to the subconscious. Your voice, okay, will imprint your subconscious. Okay, and visuals. So visuals and audio, the two top things. Stand in front of a mirror and tell yourself things. Hopefully they're good things. Your subconscious doesn't know if you're judging somebody else or if you're judging yourself. And you wonder why you end up in low self-esteem. Maybe you're saying things about somebody else. Because your subconscious doesn't know. It doesn't judge. It cannot tell the difference between fantasy and reality. So avoid doing that. Okay, and if you find yourself doing it, correct it. Yeah, Bob, he's a stupid guy, but yeah, he's been my bestie and I love the guy. See, you turn it around. Okay, always end with the good part. Okay, that's vocalization. Visualization, you have to see yourself there. You have to see yourself there. There was a time in my life, in my 20s, I couldn't see myself anywhere. And my life was very turbulent. Okay, and I'm getting the signal from Jay right now, my moderator. Okay, see you tomorrow. All right, so it's time I wrap it up. But you have to see yourself there, okay? And use visuals, okay? I use a gratitude board. Okay, get pictures of things that you're grateful for. Put it on your lock screen. Okay, don't waste your lock screen. Make it work for you. All right, I'm Junior, and we're going to let go of our international feed right now on